It started with something so small it should have been forgettable. Just a ride. A 5-second decision I made with barely a thought while drying my hands on a dish towel. But sometimes the smallest moments reveal everything. "Can you order me a ride?" Rachel asked. She was standing by the mirror in the hallway adjusting a gold hoop earring, her perfume lingering in the air behind her. She was dressed a little nicer than usual: black jeans, heels, a silky top that shimmered faintly when she moved. Pretty. Effortlessly put together like always. "Yeah, of course," I said. I opened the rideshare app and typed in the restaurant name she gave me, Harper's, a new tapas place downtown. She'd mentioned it a week before, said a few friends from work were organizing a birthday dinner. "All girls," she'd added offhandedly. "No plus ones, so don't take it personally." I didn't. Not at the time. Her phone buzzed on the counter and I saw a message preview flash, "Let me know when you're on the way," winking face. I didn't recognize the name. "New group chat?" I asked casually. She snatched the phone quickly. "Oh yeah. Just something for dinner coordination. It's chaotic, you know how it is." She gave me a quick smile. "Too quick. Right?" I said. I finished the ride order and handed her the phone. "Car's 2 minutes out." She glanced at her reflection again, swiped on a final layer of lip gloss, and slipped her phone into her clutch. "Thanks, babe. Don't wait up, okay?" "Have fun," I said, watching her leave. I wasn't suspicious. Not then. But I was restless. Maybe it was something in the way she walked out the door, not glancing back. Or the speed with which she left, like she couldn't get away fast enough. I don't know. I just found myself drifting back to the app a few minutes later, almost without realizing it, opening the trip tracker. It was just habit. Curiosity. I expected to see her halfway downtown, inching through the usual traffic. Instead, I watched the car icon slide in the wrong direction. West. Not towards 7th and Broadway. Not even close. I zoomed in, thinking maybe I had entered the wrong address. But there it was, her drop-off point. Not Harper's. Not even another restaurant. It was a residential complex. The kind with stacked balconies, tucked off a quieter road near the edge of the city. I stared at the name on the map and felt something hollow form in my chest. Logan Heights. The name meant nothing to most people. But I remembered it clearly. Logan, her old coworker, had just moved there after his divorce. He'd posted about it on Facebook a few weeks ago, something about fresh starts and open skies. I hadn't seen his name in a while, not since Rachel had left her last job, the one they both worked at. Still, she'd mentioned him occasionally before that, casually in passing. He was the funny guy at work she'd get lunch with sometimes. The one who always sent TikToks. The one she once said reminded her of her brother. And then, nothing. His name vanished and I hadn't thought about him since. Until now. The car stopped at the complex. And stayed. 5 minutes. 10. No movement. I closed the app. I didn't want to believe what I was thinking. I really didn't. I sat there on the couch, staring at the black TV screen, chewing on my lip until it almost bled. My brain kept tossing up possible explanations. Maybe Logan lived near one of her friends. Maybe she was picking someone up. Maybe the driver had made a mistake or she decided to swing by somewhere first. But every theory I built collapsed the longer I sat there, alone, in a quiet house filled with all the things that used to feel like us. Hours passed. I watched a basketball game but couldn't tell you who played. I reheated dinner and didn't touch it. Around 11:45 p.m. headlights flashed through the living room window. She was home. I stayed seated as the door opened. She walked in like nothing was off, heels in hand, makeup still fresh, calm as ever. She didn't look flustered or guilty or even surprised to see me still awake. "Hey," she said, setting her purse down. "You're up late. Wasn't that tired?" She nodded, stretching. "Dinner ran long. We tried that sangria everyone talks about. Super sweet. Too sweet, honestly." "Harper's?" I asked. Was it good?" She hesitated just a second. "Meh. Loud. The food was fine, nothing special. Honestly, we probably won't go back." I waited, let the silence sit. Then said, "That's weird." She cocked her head. "What is?" "The driver took you west. Not downtown." She blinked, then laughed, a quick, dismissive laugh. "Oh yeah. GPS got weird. Took a wrong turn or something. We ended up rerouting. I actually walked a bit too. Traffic was insane." I didn't say anything. She walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge, humming a little under her breath like nothing was out of the ordinary. I sat there on the couch, watching her move, wondering how many other nights had played out like this, me trusting, her lying. But I didn't push. Not that night. Because once you ask the question you can't unask it. And if she was lying, and everything in me was starting to believe she was, I needed more than just a strange route and a gut feeling. I needed to be sure. So instead, I got up, mumbled something about being tired, and went to bed. I lay there for hours, listening to her move around downstairs, wash her face, brush her teeth. She slid into bed beside me just before 1 a.m., her body warm against mine, and whispered, "Love you." I didn't say it back. I was still staring at the ceiling when her breathing slowed, when the rise and fall of her chest settled into sleep. And in the dark, with the soft rhythm of her breath beside me, I realized something chilling. The ride I ordered wasn't just a favor. It was a flashlight, one I hadn't meant to turn on, but now that I had, I couldn't look away. And something told me, this was only the beginning. After that night, I couldn't stop replaying the drive in my head. It haunted me, in the background of everything I did. In the middle of emails while brushing my teeth, during lunch breaks. That route, that stop, that lie, and the fact that she slipped so easily back into bed next to me afterward, like nothing had happened. I didn't confront her again. Not directly, but something inside me turned. A quiet shift. I started noticing things I had either ignored before or written off as quirks, bad moods, timing. Now, every detail felt like a puzzle piece I should have been paying closer attention to all along. Rachel's late nights had slowly crept from occasional to habitual. Always work-related. Always urgent. I used to believe her, especially when she'd come home tired, toss her bag on the couch and complain about meetings that ran long. But lately, the stories were thinner. Recycled. She started using the same exact phrasing from previous nights, word for word, like lines from a script. Meeting ran long. Group brainstorm went off track. Drinks after, couldn't get out of it. Every sentence a copy and paste from the last. And then there were the showers. Rachel used to be the shower in the morning, coffee right after kind of woman. But lately they were at night. Long, locked-door showers. With her phone either in the bathroom with her or left in another room with the screen facing down. And always with music on. Loud. Like she needed it to drown something out. I remember the first night I noticed how long she was taking. I'd walked past the bathroom and paused, hearing some moody R&B coming through the door. I stood there for a second too long, waiting, until I caught myself. I shook it off, told myself I was being paranoid. But that was before the next thing, the passwords. She changed them. Phone, laptop, even the shared tablet in the living room. I only found out because one night I went to queue up a movie and saw it was locked out of the usual Netflix profile. New passcode required. Nothing major, right? People value privacy. But Rachel had never been the secretive type. At least not before. When I asked about it, she waved it off. Work made us update everything, she said. Better security. I nodded. But it didn't sit right. Neither did the clean message threads. Every time I saw her open her phone, I noticed how empty it looked. No visible messages. No long text chains. Even our thread, our years-long conversation of shared links and dumb jokes, was reset, like she had deleted and started fresh. No history. Then there was the lingerie. She'd never been flashy about that kind of thing. But lately, new items kept showing up. Tags still on, tucked into drawers or hidden in shopping bags under the sink. And she never wore any of them around me. Not once. I found a receipt one afternoon for a boutique downtown. A high-end place. I remembered it because it wasn't her usual spot, and the name was circled on the paper in red ink. I left it where I found it, but my stomach turned. What finally pushed me from suspicion into certainty wasn't any of that, though. It was Natalie, Rachel's best friend. The kind of friend who used to swing by once in a while for wine and movies, who'd crash on our couch after girls' nights. I liked Natalie, at least I thought I did. She was funny, honest, and had been around since before Rachel and I got married. But lately she was always there. Not just socially, but lingering. She'd show up unannounced, waiting for Rachel, but hanging out even after Rachel left the room. She'd watch me while pretending not to, ask weirdly pointed questions like, "You and Ratch doing okay? And still working late all the time, huh?" And her tone had shifted. Once warm, now slightly smug. Like she knew something I didn't. Like she had front row seats to a show I didn't realize I was starring in. One afternoon, I came home early. Rachel thought I had a meeting across town. Natalie was in the kitchen helping herself to a drink. "Hey there," she said, caught off guard. "Didn't expect you back so soon." "Clearly," I said. We stood there in silence. I could feel the tension but didn't have the words for it yet. She left quickly after, muttering something about needing to beat traffic. That was the moment I realized something that chilled me. Natalie wasn't just a bystander. She was involved. Maybe not directly, but she knew. Or had at least encouraged Rachel's behavior under the guise of empowerment and living her truth, or whatever phrase they'd adopted that week. I started watching more closely, paying attention to tone, word choice, eye contact. One night, Rachel came home late again, smelling faintly of cologne, not the one I use. When I asked about it, she rolled her eyes. "Probably someone at work," she said. Elevators were packed, but her voice lacked irritation. It lacked everything. She was on autopilot. She didn't care if I believed her or not, and that indifference hit harder than anger ever could. The next day, I went through our shared calendar. I noticed that the girls' nights were never tagged, never blocked out. I searched social media looking for posts from any of the supposed friends she'd mentioned. Nothing. No photos. No check-ins. No evidence that these dinners or meetups ever happened. I felt like a detective in my own marriage, piecing together a story from fragments, realizing that while I had been living in one version of our life, Rachel had been living in another. And maybe she thought I was too comfortable to notice. Maybe she thought I didn't want to know. But she was wrong. Because once I saw the route that car had taken, everything else came into focus. The long showers. The locked phone. The scripted excuses. The patterns had always been there. I just refused to see them. Until now. And I was done pretending. You think you're prepared. You convince yourself that you've already accepted the worst, that seeing a pin drop on a map to some other man's apartment and watching your wife lie about it straight-faced is enough to numb you to everything that follows. But it's not. Because no matter how many dots I connected, no matter how many lies I unraveled, nothing hit like confirmation. It came when I least expected it. That's how it always happens, right? You dig and dig, searching for the truth, only to have it handed to you on a silver platter when your guard's down. For me, that moment happened on a Monday. We were in the break room at work, just me and Paul from HR, waiting for the coffee machine to cycle through. Small talk. Weather. Weekend plans. Harmless stuff. Until he mentioned something that made my stomach twist. "Saw your wife at the Biltmore Friday night," he said, stirring his coffee. I looked up. "The hotel?" "Yeah. That rooftop jazz thing they do once a month. My cousin dragged me. Decent drinks, good music. Didn't expect to see anyone I knew." My pulse spiked. "Rachel was there?" He nodded. "Yeah, with some guy. Tall, leather jacket. They looked like they were having a good time. I almost came over to say hi, but figured I'd let you two enjoy your date." I stared at him. Said nothing. He noticed. "Wait, wasn't you?" I shook my head slowly. "No, Paul. That wasn't me." The silence that followed was enough to K*LL any pretense. His eyes widened. "Crap, man, I'm sorry. I just assumed." I waved it off. "It's fine. It wasn't." I left work early that day, mind spiraling. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the steering wheel. I couldn't deny it anymore. She wasn't just sneaking around. She wasn't just lying. She was with him. In public. On rooftops. Holding hands in places where anyone could see. There wasn't even an attempt to hide it anymore. And yet, I still needed proof. Real proof. Not just rumors and suspicions and GPS paths. So when I got home and heard the shower running upstairs, same song playing through the Bluetooth speaker, same locked door, I made a choice. I didn't want to, but I did. I opened her laptop. She never used it much anymore, always on her phone. But it was there on the coffee table, half covered by a throw blanket. I didn't need a password. She was careless. Or confident. Or both. I clicked through her browser. Nothing suspicious. Then I checked her files. That's where I found it, a hidden folder inside the system cache. Labeled docs_backup_7. Innocuous. Misleading. But inside, messages. Hundreds of them. Exported from an app. Not her usual texting app, but something encrypted. Probably synced and saved by accident during an update. And suddenly there it was, laid out in plain text. Conversations between her and Logan. I froze. The first few lines were enough to knock the wind out of me. "I can't stop thinking about Friday. That moment in your kitchen, I keep replaying it. I missed you today. Wish I could have stayed longer. It went on and on. Weeks of texts. Maybe months. I don't know how long I read. The words blurred. Some were romantic. Some explicit. Some devastating. She had told him she loved the way he listened to her. Said she hadn't felt seen in years. Said she didn't feel guilty, not anymore. My chest felt like it was collapsing. I closed the folder and backed away like the screen might explode. I walked out of the house. Didn't even grab my jacket. Just stepped into the evening air and kept walking. The wind was cold. My skin burned. But I didn't stop. I must have walked 5 miles, maybe more. Past the park, down streets I hadn't set foot on since before we got married. I needed to get out. Get away from the house, from the smell of her perfume, from the bed we shared. When I got home, she was out of the shower, curled up on the couch in pajamas, scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, where'd you go?" "Out," I said. She nodded. Didn't press. And that scared me more than anything. Because she wasn't worried. She didn't ask questions. She thought she was safe. That I was still in the dark. That's when I knew something else for sure. This wasn't going to fix itself. It wasn't going to stop. She wasn't going to come clean. And I wasn't going to beg her to. That night, I slept in the guest room. I didn't announce it. Didn't explain. She didn't ask. In the days that followed, something inside me calcified. I moved on autopilot, silent and functional. I woke up early, worked out longer, stayed at the office later. I started keeping a journal, something I hadn't done since college. I needed somewhere to put all of it, the grief, the rage, the heartbreak. I began withdrawing, piece by piece. Stopped offering to make her coffee. Stopped texting during the day. I didn't touch her. Didn't ask where she was going or when she'd be home. I just pulled back. She noticed. The first week, she brushed it off. By the second, she asked if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said. The words were empty. The third week, she got more insistent. "Is this about work?" "No." "Then what's going on?" "Nothing." She didn't push harder. She didn't accuse. Maybe she thought she'd gotten away with it. Maybe she believed that I had sensed something but wasn't going to pursue it. She was wrong. Because even as I stopped engaging with her, I started documenting everything. The messages. The GPS logs. The receipts. I wasn't collecting evidence to punish her. I wasn't even sure what I was doing with it yet. But I needed to be prepared. For myself. The strange thing was how easily I adapted to the silence. The less I spoke to her, the more I felt like myself again. I was no longer tethered to waiting for answers that wouldn't come. I could sit in a room with her and feel nothing. It was tragic. And freeing. Then, one evening, she slipped. A message popped up on her phone while it was charging by the sink. She was upstairs. I was cleaning. The screen lit up with a name, Logan. Followed by, "Still thinking about Saturday." That dress. I didn't read the rest. I didn't need to. I took a picture. I left the kitchen. I went into the guest room and shut the door. I lay on the bed, phone in hand, and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't a suspicion anymore. It wasn't even betrayal. It was fact. She was in love with him. And I was done pretending. There's a specific kind of silence that happens when trust is gone. It's not the quiet you share comfortably while reading in the same room or watching a movie together on the couch. It's the silence that scrapes at you. That hums under your skin. The kind that turns even the softest sound, a cabinet closing, a fork scraping a plate, into static. That's what filled our home after I saw that message from Logan. Not rage. Not accusations. Just a complete emotional shutdown. I stopped speaking unless I had to. No more small talk. No more "How was your day?" or "Should we order in?" I became efficient. Detached. Present only in form. Rachel noticed, of course. At first, she tried to play it off, peppered the days with overly bright greetings and casual touches that felt about as real as a department store smile. When I didn't respond, her tone shifted. She'd linger in doorways, watching me. I could feel her trying to figure out what changed if she had slipped somewhere. But I didn't give her anything. I woke up early and left before she did. Sometimes I hit the gym, sometimes I just sat in the car and drove aimlessly. I worked late. Started taking walks by myself at night. Came home, ate alone. She'd try to start conversations here and there, ask if I'd seen some show, mention a coworker's drama, but my answers were short. Yeah. No. Not really. By the end of the first week, she stopped trying. It was almost easier than I thought it would be. The detachment. Once I made the decision to stop chasing answers, stop hoping she'd confess, something shifted inside me. I no longer felt tethered to her moods or lies. I didn't need explanations anymore. I had all the proof I needed. All the patterns. All the pieces. And now I was focused on me. I signed up for a boxing class. Something I hadn't done in years. Threw myself into the workouts, every jab and hook away to bleed off the storm building inside. I started cooking again, not for both of us, but for myself. Simple meals. Clean. Nothing extravagant. And for the first time in months, I ate with an appetite. I also reconnected with a few friends I drifted from. People I hadn't called in ages because our schedules never lined up or because Rachel didn't particularly like them. I reached out, met up for coffee, laughed a little. It reminded me of the version of me I used to be before I became the man waiting by the door, trying to believe lies he knew were lies. Inside the house, though, the air was changing. Rachel still moved through the routines, but her confidence had started to waver. She used to move through rooms like she owned them, sharp, stylish, unbothered. But now she hesitated, watched me more closely. And the longer I remained quiet, the more she started cracking. One night, while we were both in the kitchen, she asked, "Is everything okay with us?" I didn't even look up from what I was doing. Why wouldn't it be? She blinked, caught off guard. "I don't know. You've just been distant lately." "I've been busy," I said. I rinsed my plate, dried it, walked away. Later, I heard her crying in the bedroom. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. I didn't feel bad. Maybe that made me cold. Maybe it made me just as heartless as she had been. But in that moment, I didn't care. She had chosen someone else. Lied to me. Mocked our marriage behind my back. What she was crying over now wasn't guilt. It was losing control. And that wasn't my responsibility to fix. The weeks stretched. She stopped asking where I was going. Stopped announcing her plans. For all I knew, she was still seeing Logan. Maybe more discreetly now. Maybe less. I didn't track her anymore. I didn't need to. Her behavior said enough. Her absences, her nervous glances, her sudden urges to run errands at 9 p.m., they all told the story. But what got me more than anything was how easily she accepted the version of me that had gone numb. Because deep down, I think she expected me to break. To yell. To scream. To throw something or confront her or demand an explanation. That would have been easier for her, in a way. It would have given her a scene. A performance to react to. A reason to spin herself as the victim. But silence? Detachment? That unnerved her. And I knew it. She began testing the waters. Leaving notes on the kitchen counter, "Hope your day goes well," or "Made extra pasta if you're hungry." One night, she tried to sit next to me on the couch. Her hand grazed mine. I moved it away without looking. She didn't try again after that. And slowly, I saw her confidence start to fray. Her posture slumped. Her hair, once always styled, began to show signs of neglect. She stopped wearing perfume around the house. Her phone stayed face up more often now, like she was trying to prove something. But it was too late, because it wasn't about what she did anymore. It was about what I had become. A man no longer tethered to hope. And that, I think, scared her more than anything. The silence between Rachel and me had turned into a third presence in the house, something you could feel brushing past you in the hallway, lingering in shared spaces, settling between us at opposite ends of the couch like smoke that wouldn't clear. We weren't fighting. We weren't even pretending to be okay. We were simply coexisting, drifting past one another like strangers who happened to live under the same roof. And into that vacuum stepped Natalie. It started subtly at first. A visit here, a drop-by there. She'd forget something at our place and show up to retrieve it. A scarf, a book, a charger. Always right when Rachel was conveniently unavailable, either upstairs, in the shower, or on a call. I began to wonder if Rachel was orchestrating those absences on purpose or if Natalie was operating on her own. At first, I thought maybe Natalie was checking on me, trying to gauge the damage. Maybe she was the designated spy, assigned to read the temperature of the imploding marriage. But the more she showed up, the more I realized it wasn't sympathy that brought her back. It was curiosity. Or maybe something worse, complicity. One evening, a Thursday, she arrived just after dinner. Rachel had left for another yoga class that conveniently required her to be across town for 3 hours. "Rachel home?" Natalie asked, standing at the door in tight jeans and a half-button blouse. A look that felt more planned than accidental. "No," I said, stepping aside. "She left 10 minutes ago." She came in anyway, walked into the kitchen like she lived there, poured herself a glass of wine from the bottle Rachel had left out. "You okay?" she asked, like she'd been rehearsing the question in her car. "I'm great," I said flatly, sitting down at the table. "Want to cut to the part where you tell me what you really came here for?" She blinked, startled by the directness. "I was just checking in." "No, you weren't," I interrupted. "You haven't just checked in since college. So let's stop pretending. She stood for a second, wine glass hovering midair. Her expression changed, less concerned, more cautious. Like I'd stepped off the expected script and she wasn't sure what page we were on anymore. Okay, she said finally, setting the glass down. You want honesty? Fine. You've been cold. Rachel's worried. She thinks something's wrong. She thinks something's wrong? I laughed once, bitter. Not that something is wrong. Just that I might have noticed. Natalie leaned on the counter, arms crossed. So what then? You're just going to sit here and pretend you're above it? Like you're the perfect husband. Not perfect, I said, but loyal, honest. Until recently, I thought that still counted for something. Silence. Then she shifted. You're not stupid, she said, her voice low. You've probably figured it out. But you have to understand something. Rachel's been lost for a while. She needed space. She needed to feel something again. I stared at her. And you encouraged that? I supported my friend, she replied, as if that cleared her conscience. She's been miserable. She said you checked out emotionally long before anything ever happened. Convenient timeline, I muttered. You don't get to be righteous now, she snapped. Relationships fall apart all the time. People change. You should have seen this coming. I stood up slowly, heart pounding. Not with rage, just clarity. Did you know she was sleeping with Logan? Natalie flinched. She tried to recover, but it was too late. Her eyes had given it away. The quick dart, the defensive shift, the way her mouth opened but no words followed. You knew, I said. You knew the whole time, and you covered for her. I didn't cover anything, she said, but the words came out too fast. It wasn't my place. But it was your influence, I interrupted. All those nights you pushed her to go out, to reclaim her spark. You weren't helping her find herself. You were handing her the matches. She didn't respond, just stood there, arms crossed tighter now, like she was holding herself together. I picked up my phone from the table, opened the voice recorder app, and hit stop. I'd started it the moment she walked in, just in case. She paled. What are you doing? Making sure I'm not crazy, I said, pocketing the phone. Don't worry. I'm not sharing it. Not unless I have to. That's messed up, she whispered. No, I said. What's messed up is pretending you didn't know what she was doing. What's messed up is acting like this was inevitable, like I deserved it. Natalie grabbed her purse, rattled now. You're twisted. Maybe, I said, but at least I see clearly now. She left without another word. The door slammed behind her. I stood there for a while, heart pounding, staring at the empty wine glass she left behind. A smear of lipstick on the rim. A ghost of everything she and Rachel thought they'd get away with. The next night, I left the recording on the kitchen counter. No note, no explanation. Just my phone, screen locked, file queued and ready to play. Rachel found it after dinner. I heard her press play from the other room. Heard her call Natalie's name, then my own. Then silence. Then footsteps. She stood at the threshold of the hallway, pale. What is this? She asked. You tell me, I replied. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I walked past her without a word. That night, she didn't sleep in our room. And for once, I slept better than I had in months. After she heard the recording, Rachel stopped pretending. There was no more cheerful small talk, no attempts to charm her way back into favor. Whatever mask she'd been wearing cracked in one clean break. For the next few days, she moved around the house like a ghost, quiet, cautious, aware that the spell was broken. She offered half-hearted apologies at first, some vague suggestions about couples counseling, rebuilding trust, and starting over. But I had already started over, in my mind, in my resolve, in the way I looked at her and no longer saw a partner. I saw a stranger with my wife's face. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just began quietly packing my things. She watched me from the doorway of the bedroom, arms crossed like she wanted to say something, but every time she opened her mouth, she stopped herself. There was nothing left to argue for. She knew it. I knew it. I found a temporary apartment 2 miles from work. It was small, barely furnished, and the floor creaked when you walked too fast. But it was mine. No memories soaked into the walls, no shared history to trip over. Just quiet, clean space. Exactly what I needed. The divorce was straightforward. No kids, no major financial tangles. I left her the house not out of generosity but because I didn't want it. Let her sit in that shell of a home with its reminders of what she threw away. Rachel tried to reach out after I moved. Voicemails. Long texts. Once she left a handwritten letter in my mailbox, the same handwriting she used to leave love notes with back when things were real. I didn't open it. Somewhere along the way, Natalie disappeared from her life too. Maybe guilt finally caught up to her. Maybe Rachel realized her confidant was just another crack in the foundation. I didn't care enough to ask. One day, months later, I ran into Natalie by accident at a pharmacy of all places. She looked thinner, worn down. Her usual air of superiority had been replaced by something quieter, smaller. She gave me a tight smile and said she hasn't spoken to me since. I nodded. Probably smart. I didn't mean for any of this, she said. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't you? She looked like she wanted to argue, but instead she just lowered her gaze and walked away. That was the last time I saw either of them. Life after Rachel was surprisingly peaceful. I stopped looking over my shoulder, stopped second-guessing myself. I started hiking on weekends, learned how to cook things other than frozen pizza, and reconnected with friends I hadn't seen since the early years of our marriage. At first, it was strange waking up alone. But over time, that emptiness turned into something else, freedom. There were no arguments, no lies, no quiet tension under every conversation. Eventually, I started meeting new people. I didn't jump into anything fast, didn't try to replace what I lost. I wasn't looking for someone to fix me, I was learning how to be whole again on my own. Now, when people ask what happened between Rachel and me, I don't go into details. I just tell them the truth, the one sentence that sums it up better than anything else ever could. I ordered my wife a taxi, then watched where it really took her. And that was enough.